All right, welcome to another episode of reaction videos. I'm going to react to Tupac's, here, let me pop it up, the comment. So this does come up from comment, Letter to My Unborn Child. And this comment comes from Martin Romjan. He says, would love to hear your reaction on Letter to My Unborn Child, one of the most meaningful songs of the man, in my opinion. So thank you, Martin, for your comment. This is one I don't think I've heard. I do want to address one comment that I got. I've gotten many negative comments, which is fine, by the way. I'm sometimes a little bit critical of Tupac, so it's only fair that you guys could be critical back to me if you love Tupac. So go for it. But one comment I found interesting was this idea that I've said that I'm a 90s kid. I was born in 1985, so I grew up in the 90s, and I haven't heard a lot of Tupac. And for some reason, this person interpreted that as I've never heard of Tupac. And I don't want to, when I say that these are first reactions, there have been a couple of episodes where I said I have heard the song before. One episode where I didn't know that I had heard the song before, but I discovered that I had heard the song before after I started listening to it. I don't remember which song that was. So there's some songs that are vaguely familiar that I did. And then there's a lot of songs that he did that I am not familiar with. I mean, obviously a lot of the big ones I have heard, but the vast majority I haven't. And part of my purpose with these videos is to kind of understand the, not the hype from a musical perspective, but what people are saying about him as a poet. So if you don't know it, I'm a poetry and literature teacher, and I have a magazine called Troubadour Mag, Troubadour Magazine. You can see the troubadourmag.com is the URL. And, on there, I do a lot of poetry analysis, all classical, 19th century and 18th century in particular. I focus a lot on the Romantic era, but I talk a lot about other things. I do short stories. I don't really do novels just because of the time that it takes, but I do teach novels when I get the opportunity. So the point is that I have a pretty wide scope from ancient Greece, which I have specialized in a lot of ways, to the Romantic and even to modern eras, to our modern era a little bit. And so it's really interesting to me when someone says that rap is poetry, because when I read it or have heard it, it doesn't really seem at all related to what I've read in the past. Now, does that mean that it's not at all poetry? This is why I find this an interesting question. Is rap poetry? Is because it brings up, well, what really is poetry? What is poetry doing? Why is it doing it? What are the requirements of it being poetry? And it's not been well defined. I don't have a great answer for you yet. I'm working on some answers. But in the meantime, and I'm going to pop this up here. In the meantime, I'm doing my best to kind of figure out a little bit about Tupac, give him a fair shot, and try to, listen to some of his music, enjoy it. This is the first time I've heard of Letter to My Unborn Child. And, this is claiming on YouTube, by the way, to be the official music video. I don't know if it is. And so we'll see how it goes, and I'll give it my best shot. Oh, I have somebody recommended that I pull up the lyrics. So I'm also going to be looking on my phone occasionally because I want to try to get the lyrics, because I've never read the lyrics. I don't know anything about it. It's really hard for me to evaluate. It's always hard to evaluate anything like this on a first time basis, but especially when he's going really fast, which sometimes he does. But all poetry I read 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times before I analyze it. So don't take this as my official analysis, by the way. Okay, let's get into it. I know you guys want to do that. Remember, afterwards, I'm going to read a poem. So stick around after the reactions. I'm going to read a poem that I have not read. Again, 2 reactions for the price of 1 from his book, The Rose That Grew from Concrete. Okay, so let's Letter to My Unborn, I think is the official title of this song by Tupac Shakur. Okay, let's go.
To my unborn child. To my unborn child. In case I don't make it. Just remember daddy loves you. Did everything I could do to make it work. So don't worry about what people say. You know daddy loves you. forget to holler at my unborn child. Many things learned in prison, blessed and still living, trying to earn every penny that I'm getting. And reminiscing to the beginning of my mission. When I was conceived, it came to be in this position. My mama was a Panther loud, single parent, but she proud when she witnessed baby boy rip a crowd. To school, but I dropped out and left the house, cause my mama say I'm good for nothing. So I'm out since I only got one life to live. God forgive me for my sins, let me make it and I never steal again or this again. My only friend is my misery, wanting revenge for the agony they did to me. See, my life ain't promised, but it sure gets better. Hope you understand my love letter to my unborn child.
I'm not saying I'm gonna rule the world, but I know if I keep talking about how dirty it is out here, somebody gonna clean it up.
To my unborn child.
You know, I'm still down for the underdog, and I know that seems real funny because everybody is saying that these days.
So complicated to escape fate, and you can never understand till we trade places. Tell the world I've been guilty to being anxious. Ain't no way in hell that I could ever be a rapist. It's hard to face this cold world on a good day. When will they let the little kids in the hood play? I got shot 5 times, but I'm still breathing. Living proof there's a God if you need a reason. And I believe in my own faith. Will I raise my kids in the right or the wrong way? Dear mama, I'm a man now. I wanna make it on my own, not a handout. Make way for a whirlwind prophesy. I wanna go in peace when I gotta die. On these cold streets, ain't no love, no mercy, and no friends. In case you never see my face
I wanna distinguish myself. I believe that I'm a natural born leader.
To my unborn child. To my unborn child.
He writes a lot. I love that. The hard worker.
Dear Lord, can you hear me? Tell me what to say to my unborn seed in case I pass away. Will my child get to feel love? Or we all just cursed to be street thugs? Cause being black hurts. And even worse if you speak first. Living my life as an outlaw. What could be worse? Cause maybe if I tried to change who I'm kidding, I'm a thug till I die. I'm a ride and man, touch bases, eat lunch and plush places. Regular criminal oasis awaits us. If there's a ghetto for true thugs, I'll see you there. And I'm sorry for not being.
Well, I can take orders because I'm a good soldier.
Me against the world.
I like to give orders.
All my little girls, to the Lord I'm eternal. Rest in peace, peace, take care of all my seeds. To my unborn child. To my unborn child. Please take care of all my kids, my unborn child. To my unborn child. Follow the rules of the game. Sometimes it's confusing. The rules of the game is gonna get you pushed all day, every day. Watch out for these snakes and fakes. Sure, it's coming down the way.
Okay, I don't know if that was the whole thing. I have more lyrics here. Did he say to my unborn child, please take all my kids, my unborn child to my unborn child. This letter goes out to the seeds that I might not get to see because of this lifestyle. I don't think he's, just know that your daddy loves you. Got nothing but love for you. All I wanted was, I know I'm sorry being such a white boy reading this. All I wanted was for you to have a better life than I did. That's why I was out here on a 24-hour, 365 grind. When you get to be my age, you'll understand. Just know I got love for you and I'll see you up there in the ghetto heaven because ghetto heaven gotta be there. Haha, take care, run wild, but be smart. Follow the rules of the game. I know that's sometimes it's confusing. The rules of the game is going to get you through it all day, every day. Watch out for these snakes and fakes, friends coming down the way. So, okay. And that is the reaction. I don't know if I had the full version. Let me know in the comments below the history of this if you know it. Is this something that came out posthumously? Did he write the lyrics and sing some of them but didn't finish it or something? Or, I don't know why that. Or did the music video, was that an official MTV music video and they, for time, had to cut it short? I don't know. I definitely liked, and it was a nice beat. It was fun. Again, there was one line that he said in an interview that I thought was interesting because I've done some reactions to some of his interviews, 2 of his interviews, and you guys hated my reaction. I kind of lambasted Tupac for some of his ideas and what I think they lead to and some of the negative parts of what he's saying. I think there's a difference between trying to solve a problem by causing other problems. And I think that's what sometimes some of his ideas lead to. But, so you can go back to those and add to the hate if you want, but, those reaction videos. But one thing he said that I liked is that, if there's enough, if I shed enough light, people will clean up this place. Now, again, what are the causes of the ghetto and the places that he has in a wealthy country like America is an interesting conversation. He's an artist who's just reacting. And I think that's what most artists do. Most artists are not great social philosophers or philosophers. Usually they tend to be emotional. So they kind of convey what they feel. And sometimes that can be right or wrong. But the point is that I do like that, though, that he says that, because that's his role as an artist, is to kind of show the world that he's living in. He may not really understand the causes, although he may think he does, but he just understands that something's wrong, and something is clearly wrong. And I get what he's saying. Where he comes from is, there are injustices that should not exist in a free society. There are, fundamental problems of crime and police brutality that shouldn't exist in a free society. And so there's something there that needs to be addressed. I just, in my studies, I think I've come to a different conclusion on what needs to happen to have a free society where we can all, whatever our color of our skin or where we come from, have the opportunity to flourish. And so that's where I kind of disagree with him. But I like that he had that in the song. And, the idea that, I'm going to keep talking about this because I've done many of songs from him so far, and he talks about that a lot, right? Like he does talk about a lot of his songs are social commentaries. They're not, it's not the first time that that's happened in literary history. There's a big tradition of social commentary. In fact, maybe I'll do a couple poems, some classic poems of some social commentary poems. I think even Lewis Carroll's the Walrus and the Carpenter, even that is a kind of social commentary poem when you look at it. Now, addressing the idea of, is this poetry? I don't know. I still don't quite know. I mean, there's some good turns of phrase, but I will say it relies heavily, like all of his work, on the music. And one thing that separates poetry from music, and music is a great category all in and of itself to be studied and enjoyed by itself. But I think one thing that separates poetry is that poetry relies solely on language. And it relies on the sound of language. It relies on the resources of language. So that's the connotation of words, the denotation of words, metaphor, simile, analogy. It uses all types of imagery to kind of convey, and of course, the robustness of vocabulary to kind of pull together with, again, the sounds that words makes as well. And the rhythm that you can, but with meter that you can hit. That's what you're getting with what I would consider most good poetry. And I don't see that yet with Tupac, but he is using the beat and the rhythm and to kind of, I think, compensate for, not doing that. And I think it, to a certain degree, it is able to reach a wider audience. And that is one thing that he's able to do that, a lot of people are not reading a lot of Shakespeare, but a lot of people do listen to Tupac. So that's something to consider, right? At least. Okay, so thank you for that. If you want to stick around, I'm going to do a quick reading of a poem from his book, The Rose That Grew from Concrete. The poem is, "What is it that I search for?" And I've said this many times before, but he seems to be, he's such a modernist in his writing. He uses the number 4. When he says 2, he puts the number 2, and he has no commas and things of that nature. I think that's unfortunate that he grew up in the modernist era, because I think he would have been better suited to learn some of the structure and what structure can add to meaning and what you're trying to accomplish. And if you want to understand a little bit more of that, you can watch my 80 videos on poetry that I've done so far. Okay, so here it is. By the way, I'm not saying that that's necessarily means it's bad poetry. It's just, this is the modernist poetry. This is, coming out of Gertrude Stein and E.E. Cummings and these people who basically did away with structure. Okay. Not that you might care about that, but let's read this poem. What is it that I search for? I know not what I search for, but I know I have yet to find it. Because it is invisible to the eye, my heart must search for it blinded. And if by chance I find it, will I know my mission is achieved? Can one come to conclusions before the question is conceived? Just as no one knows what lies beyond the shore, I will never find the answer to what it is that I search for. It's a good little ABAB rhyme scheme. I know not what I search for, but I know I have yet to find it. Because it is invisible to the eye, my heart must search for it blinded. So he's searching for something, but he doesn't know what it is. And I think a lot of us today can sympathize with that feeling, right? Like we feel like there's something we want to achieve, but we're not certain what it is. And it's a vague thing. And I think that is a problem with ambitious people. I will sympathize or say that of myself, is that we want something grand or big or epic, but it's ill-defined. So if you ever do it, he achieved great things. But I think this is part of the reason why maybe he was self-destructive in a lot of ways. And this ideology or this feeling, because it's ill-defined, if you know exactly in clear terms what it is that you want to achieve, I think that it is helpful to knowing that you're achieving it. And if you want a good example of this, is a Netflix TV series, miniseries that just came out, Queen's Gambit, where she knows very clearly what she wants to achieve. And there's a lot of things that get in the way of her achieving that. She wants to become a world grand master. So she wants to be the world champion of chess. And that's a very clear thing. But wanting to be famous or be rich is not a clear thing. And, wanting to sell a lot of records, that's not even a clear thing. That's pretty vague, because when you sell a lot of records, the question is, well, how much is a lot? Like I sold 1 million, but maybe a lot is 10 million. So maybe I haven't gotten there. And then when you sell 10 million, well, have I really sold a lot, or is it 50 million? So it's kind of an endless thing when it's vaguely defined like that. The second stanza is, and if by chance I find it, whatever it is that he's searching for, will I know my mission is achieved? So that's what I was just saying about why I sold 10 million records, but maybe I need to sell 20 million. I don't know, because he doesn't have a clear view. Can one come to conclusions before the question is conceived? I think that's a good question. Can one come to conclusions before the question is conceived? I think, yeah. I think you can come to views before you've even clearly conceived the question. And I think that's a problem. Just as no one knows what lies beyond the shore, a nice little metaphor there, the idea of something beyond the shore, something beyond the veil, right? A Wizard of Oz type thing, like what's behind the curtain. I will never find the answer to what it is that I search for. Well, that's kind of sad. So his conclusion in the last stanza is that. And sorry for going on so long, but I have a lot more to say on this stuff than I have on other of his writing. I don't know exactly where it is, but there is a point in here where he talks kind of in the song that we just heard. When he talks about, let's see if I can find it. Yeah, he says, my only friend is my misery, wanting revenge for the agony they did to me. See, my life ain't promised, but it'll sure get better. Hope you understand my love letter to my unborn child. So, but I think he has this view, and I've seen this in a lot of his work, that's really, excuse me, really tragic. That he has this view, despite the money that he makes or the fame that he gets, and he can one day, use his fame. I mean, if he were to have just stopped what he was doing, tried to escape the life of rap, as much as possible, try to get out of it, and then take his fame and do something else with it, or just wait until he can have his own record label in 10 years or whatever. I know that's hard, but I mean, if he could, because I know he had like a contract, but if he could do something like that, if he could have held a different vision of his life, I think he would have been happier in his own life. But he had a really because again, he made success though. He may not have been a billionaire, but he did sell a lot of records. He was popular. People knew him while he was alive. So there was, he achieved something that a lot of people in his situation would not have. And that is a good thing. But he thought of his life as a constant misery, as a failure, as tragic. And that, I think, is a world of a vision that a lot of people have that is a really bad vision, especially someone like Tupac, who got out of, the negative side, place that he says that he's from. Okay. So I know that was a little bit longer than normal, but thank you so much if you watched all the way through and listened to the poem. Give me some more comments for suggestions of more Tupac videos and songs in particular. And if you have comments for other, musicians, for me to listen to, I'll check those out as well as I can. So I do read all the comments. I can't always comment back or reply, because I am getting quite a few of them now, but I appreciate all of your comments.